And tonight we're talking about, first of all, The Bank Dick from 1940, directed by Edward Cline. End of note for tonight is starring one W.C. Fields. The tagline for this film was his face red and his nose too when the bandits took the money and the safe. Egbert Souzé becomes an unexpected hero when a bank robber falls over a bench he's occupying. Now considered brave, Egbert is given a job as a bank guard. Soon he is approached by charlatan J. Frothington Waterbury about buying shares in a mining company. Egbert persuades teller Ogleby to lend him bank money to be returned when the scheme pays off. Unfortunately, Bank Inspector Snoopington then makes a surprise appearance.
Snoopington. That's funny because it's kind of ironic.
Because he snoops?
Yeah. Like, what are the chances that a guy with a name like that would end up in a position like that?
Yeah. So...
Hey, this is dead air, buddy.
Yeah?
What are you doing over there?
RJ, for some reason, just sent me a photo of myself. being a creep, posting me with my back turned like a weirdo. That's interesting.
Yeah, you hold your backpack all wrong.
Do I?
I saw you. You had to adjust it a bunch of times. You got to put that strap on the opposite shoulder. The opposite shoulder. You see?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what were we talking about?
You were watching me for a long time then.
I was going to take a video, but I kept the video for myself because the audio would be quite disturbing.
You're not gonna be watching this with Andrea later, I hope.
No, she already told me to stop showing her stuff like that.
Okay. Anyway, so the bank dick. So
right.
In the build up to this movie, every time I brought it up, RJ was like, ugh. Oh, every single time, and I don't even think he knew. I don't think he knew anything about this at all.
Nope.
I don't think he knew what a W.C. Fields was, except for it just sounded old, and so he went, "Oh God, W.C. Fields. Oh God, Grandpa." And I'm like, "Well, I want to illustrate that, RJ. This was something that your great grandpa would have watched. So it goes back way further.
I know.
And yeah." Sometimes, RJ, you gotta delve back into the past and get a sense of another time. Live outside of your own experiences. Learn about the world a little bit. That's what the Criterion Collection's all about.
Is that what that show, The Goldbergs, is about? Delving into the past?
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Someone will get that. They'll laugh or not.
Okay.
Anyways, keep talking about old man stuff.
Okay. So, so the Bank Dick. I watched this movie back when I was first kind of getting into the Criterion stuff. As I've mentioned before, I've got a soft spot for old humor. For I think it's probably coming from watching Looney Tunes, because you'd be watching old cartoons, and then suddenly there'd be some strange caricature of a guy that would pop up, and you're like, who the fuck's that? I'm 5 years old, and I don't know who this is. And then you're later on, you're oh, that's Humphrey Bogart, or oh, that's Groucho Marx, and you pick up stuff from watching cartoons. That's from the Simpsons, Looney Tunes. That's where you find out what their references are after the fact. But unless you caught some of this random stuff on TV, growing up, when I was at least being a kid in the 80s, this stuff would actually sometimes show up as filler in between other things, or on a New Year's Day they'd play a bunch of old comedy stuff. And it'd be kind of oh, that's neat and weird, and everyone talks funny, and everyone's in black and white, and it's just odd looking. It's totally different than an 80s or 90s comedy. So I was oh, W.C. Fields, he looks odd and weird, and this was on Ebert's great movies list. So I went out and watched it, and I remember at the time thinking this movie was brilliant. I thought this is oh, this movie is so awesome. And I think I bought it on I have the DVD of this still, which I think is the only way it's still come out. It's never been released on Blu-ray. It's a very minimal presentation. There's nothing of special features really to speak of other than color bars and chapter selection. So yeah, I mean, I watched it years and years ago. Then I remember trying to rewatch it sometime later, and it seemed like it didn't have the same brilliance that I remembered it having. And I was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is like okay, I guess. Um, and then
Mm-hmm.
so this is like my third time ever watching it for this week, and yeah, I kind of feel about it the same way as I did the last time I watched it, where there's
Mm-hmm.
like stuff about the character, the persona of W.C. Fields that I still think is like interesting, but like a lot of the time there's like not really jokes. There's like not
Mm-hmm.
like actual like a lot of stuff that works anymore. Like basically, I think my note here was this is your great grandpa's Curb Your Enthusiasm, because essentially
Yeah.
that's kind of like the character is like kind of like I'm
Yep.
not sure if he's like the prototype for this. I mean, I'm not really familiar with my my Siegfried's Follies, like which was like if I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like it's vaudeville. It's like the what it's what comedy was back in New York back in like the 1910s. Like it was like that's where all those guys came out of, was doing stand up shtick and the vaudeville thing. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's I mean that's where W.C. Fields comes from, and so I don't know if his particular spin on stuff was unique, but we'll kind of talk about that, or we'll probably wind up talking about all this simultaneously. But like with the short films, which I can talk about broadly, it's honestly they should have just been one DVD set rather than
Yes.
like two separate spines, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean if you paid $40 US for like these
The
six short
shorts.
films which are like
Yeah.
2 hours, and there's like no special features I don't think even that are on that as well. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even I just found these all on YouTube, which is one of the nice things about public domain is you can just find short films on YouTube,
Yep.
and you can watch like at your fingertips. You have like the entire like early history of cinema just there, ready for you to
Mm-hmm.
dive into. So like, 'cause I mean, I think this would have been like one thorough like collection they could have put out, and
Mm-hmm.
it would work just as well because when you're watching like his earliest film that he ever made, which is Silent the Pool Sharks from 1915, and you wind up with the Barbershop, which was like the last one included on here, you get the development and growth of the character that he plays, like the early days of
Mm-hmm.
like him just kind of being like this generic sort of kind of silent film stand-up guy, or like character, kind of a goof, and then you kind of get him like through his like Rodney Dangerfield period that he kind of did once, and then you see him really grow right into the Egbert Suze character by like when you're watching the Barbershop, you're just like, oh, it's like the exact same idea, but Pink Dick's like 72 minutes long and Barbershop's 20 minutes long, and but it's like the same idea, like the same sort of beats and stuff like that. And you sort of,
Right.
it's interesting to watch those six things as like an evolution of a comedian like working on out his shtick and like figuring that stuff out, which like
Mm-hmm.
I think is like interesting from like I guess like an academic standpoint. But I mean, like at the end of the day, like I guess with my thoughts on the bank deck and this, it's like kind of I didn't get like a lot of enjoyment like I would expect out of a comedy, and like
Mm-hmm.
comparing it to like other stuff that I've watched from the same period of time, like when I'm watching like Laurel and Hardy or watching the Marx Brothers stuff, there's like actual things that are like pretty funny still in there. Bank Dick,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty minimal stuff. Save like little things, little detail things, but for the most part, I don't think this stuff holds up, which is just like an unfortunate thing that happens with comedy. As we've discussed many times, every time we've talked about comedy, like with This
Uh-huh.
Is Spinal Tap or with Life of Brian. But like in those situations, we're talking about like the 70s and then the 80s, and two different like styles of comedy, British and American.
Mm-hmm.
And then with this is like even older and American. So like, I mean, sensibilities and tastes have changed dramatically, and watching it now, it's always gonna be tough. And that's like with
Mm-hmm.
anything in its presentation, and like the evolving form of like any medium is like the way that things work for an audience. The audience is completely different now too. And I'm sure that like W.C. Fields, the same man now, he would probably work his material completely differently in 2017 than he did in 1940 because he wasn't an idiot, I'm sure, and he would have been like, hey, I'm gonna present my stuff in a different way that actually speaks to people now, rather than like when it did when that time when he was like a successful act, and people like responded to it. So that's kind of like my thoughts and kind of defense, I guess, of it. RJ, what did you think of the Bank Dick?
So old.
Yeah,
this guy's so old.
He was old then. He actually died in 1946, so he was only alive like another 6 years after this, and he died at 66 years old. So
oldest fucking guy I've ever seen.
So he's like 1940s, like 60 years old. So that's like fucking aged. Yeah. This guy's super old. Yep.
So just to reiterate, hit the same nails you did. Yes, comedy can sometimes be dated. Yes, some of these old-timey shows sometimes don't have the same weight that they used to, because it's like, hey man, you know what kind of problems we're dealing with now? There's fake first ladies running around. Dudes are showing their girlfriends porn. That's real problems. It's not this weird shit where it's like, I don't know, I don't have a job. Now I do, I guess. Whoops a doodle. Anyways, so all that stuff is true. I watched this and I actually liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't love it.
Yeah.
I might watch it again in like 20 years when I'm an old man. When I'm 66 in 20 years, I might watch this again. No, I actually liked it. I think the dude is really his brand of humor. I really like. It's kind of, I didn't make that connection before, but when you were saying the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, I love Larry David.
Oh yeah,
I love Larry David. I love Seinfeld. I love all that stuff. So that old curmudgeon, like not even curmudgeon, but like his kind of one thing I really like that he does here and he does in some of the shorts as well is like someone will say something. They'll be like, "Oh my God, the man jumped off the building," and he'll be like, "Huh? What? Oh, well, all right." And he's just like really mumbly and like dismissive. He's like, "Huh? What?" Like never really cares and is not totally interested in things sometimes. And I think that's really funny because it's funny to be like that, I guess. No, like, so this movie's, it's not like great. Like there's definitely dated stuff and there are things that I don't think land as well as they probably would have way back when. Like when he's on the movie set as a director, I think that's probably when I was least interested in this movie.
Yeah, 100%.
I was like when everything around it is good though. Like when he like blows the engine out of that car, and when he's leaving his house and he's throwing flower pots at like a little girl, you're just like, what the fuck is this? And it's really funny.
Yeah.
And then like later on, like his stuff is really funny too. But yeah, that directing scene's not great. He does some body humor, which is always classic.
Especially when he's a fat man.
As a fat man, yeah. He does cigarette tricks, which I love.
Eating that cigarette.
Eating that cigarette. I love stuff like that. My dad used to do stuff like that with like pens. Like you know where you put it in your ear and then you pull it out your nose, stuff like that. I love shit like that. It's super funny. And then there are a few things that I thought were like genuinely funny, even for like 100-year-old movie. This is like 100 years old. I'm just guessing. Like when there was one in particular I wrote down because I feel like this is like a Simpsons joke almost. He comes into his house and he's like, I saved the bank, I guess. And he gives like his mom or his mother-in-law the newspaper. He's like, they wrote about it all in the paper. And she takes it and she just immediately turns and throws it into the fireplace. I thought that was really fun. Like that's like a Simpsons joke. I thought that was awesome. So stuff like that is really funny. I think the ending is super good, super cool. Like the whole car chase thing. Yeah. That's a classic silent era stuff where like the wheels are coming off the car and there's guys jumping out of ditches. All that stuff was super cool. There's some great other things like when he finds out that guy was trying to play him and he comes up and just punches that fucker through the window.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was amazing. That was really cool. I do have a timestamp for this movie, but it was only because I wanted to see when it was. At 56 minutes, a door gets slammed on his dick.
Yeah.
And I thought that was someone closes the door and he's like, oh, he like jumps and it's totally right on his dick. So I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know why, but after he takes a shot, he always washes his hands. And then he even makes, like, that's his chaser. He even makes that joke where they replace the water. He's like, I can't wash my hands in the same water. And I was like, what is that? Is that like some old joke that I don't understand? I guess. And then one of my final notes is that money is always the answer.
Yeah.
Because that solves all the problems.
Yeah.
He goes from a degenerate drunk into a distinguished
drunk.
A distinguished man. A distinguished drunk, yeah. So
See, RJ,
no, yeah,
remember, remember last week, and I was like, RJ, I think you'll relate to this guy.
Yeah, no, I know you said that, but you say a lot of things. You said that weird, creepy thing earlier that was creepy. Everyone knows about. No, I actually like this. I don't dislike old stuff either. Like, there's a lot of real old movies that I love. It was just when last week when you're like, oh, it's like 6 short films from like 1915 to 1940. I was like, oh fuck. And especially we talked about this last year when it takes away from our actual creep time, which this year I have more limited than ever. It appears. It kind of bogs you down. And last year I was really resentful of the movies we were watching in October. See Salo, the episode Salo.
Oh man, that movie's that's
just
that's like
in the collection.
No.
Yeah, it's the worst. But no, I actually liked The Bank Dick. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was a nice surprise.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you liked it. I was kind of, it's like, I don't know if RJ's going to take this. I mean, it's got alcoholism. RJ always likes that. And
I do.
So I'm glad that you liked it more than I guess you were probably expecting. Couple of things I jotted down while I was watching it. Yeah, eating that cigarette was pretty good. I do love like the names that like as I was reading through. They're just so stupid that it's great. Yep. Like Frothingham, Ogilvy, Snoopington, like it's all good. It's like great. Why do people have to have like Sean and Bryson
Chad.
or something like that? Just names, guy names. It's like why? It's like go for it, man. It's a farce. So yeah, and then when you're like Sucé and it's French, because we all know that everything French makes it classy. But
Egbert saucy,
or just sauce, which
sauce.
Is good. It's good. And then yeah, smacking kids, just like fucking just upside the head. It's great. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Talk of boondogling. That's always. What?
Was that when he was at the Black Pussy?
Yeah.
Boone. Yeah, because Andrea watched like half of this with me before she went to go do something else.
Yeah.
And we both heard poondogging. And we were like, what? Because she looked at me and I looked at her and we were both like, did he just say poon? And it sounded like he was poondogging at the Black Pussy. And we're like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
So I think one of my favorite bits in this is actually when he like comes to the Black Pussy and he's like, oh, he's a little concerned about $20. And it's like, he's like, he's worried that he lost it, but no, he spent it on alcohol. He doesn't remember, but he's okay with that.
Yeah, as long as he knows that he spent it on the booze and then just drop it out. Because if you drop it out of your pocket, that's $20 you could have spent on beer.
Exactly.
I know what he's talking about.
And yes, there's just the general comedy of alcoholism. There's a bit with him teaching children how to smoke, or the time talking about teaching children how to smoke. That you'd have to wait until they're at least 8 years old to do that. Currently, RJ's away from the table because he's having to remove his cat from the new office because Winnie is being rambunctious. You got that taken care of?
Oh yeah, the cat came in the room and started knocking over all this stuff. So
gotta keep that door. You gotta keep that door closed.
Things aren't unpacked yet, so it's all stacked.
It's all boxes to cats.
Yeah.
So I made a note here that this is real mumblecore. Because so like the defining characteristic of W.C. Fields is he mutters, and he's really good at it. It's like everything's just like it's like because you can miss lines. Like he just does these throwaway things, and then of course there's like the one thing that I kind of forgot about was like his defining line is him going, "Oh yes," like which is like
yes,
yeah, it's good. He pulls it off so well, and just like his perpetually being put off. I guess like he's always just like he's very like paranoid and like. Yeah, he snuck up on. He's always just, which actually pays off to like one of the funniest, arguably, moments in The Bank Dick when he's waiting in line to talk to the manager at the bank, and an African American gentleman is behind him, and his reaction because he's just like, oh fuck. I forgot. This is 1940, and it's just like it's so fucking funny. And then I'm like, oh god. Like, because now it's like, oh god, it's this shuffling guy, and he talks weird and funny. Yeah, but it doesn't actually go as bad as you'd expect it to go. He just wants to get his money out. But fuck.
So did you like that because you identified with his position of discomfort, or
no? I think I related to it, or not related to it. I think I found it so funny that because. Like it's like holy shit, you could never do that in 2017. Like you even if you you couldn't do it. Yeah. So you have to go back to like 1940 to like do anything that's like race related, and like do it other than like in ways that are like so ridiculously sanitized and like pointless that why even bother doing it. So that brought me back to my great grandpa's sense of humor. But I laughed. I did laugh. It just like because I was like, oh Jesus, like it made me tense because I was like, oh fuck, we're gonna have to talk about this. But then they were like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But because there's another one that comes up in the short films that like I also burst out laughing at. And then there's like there's the bit where then there's the big chase scene. And there's a bit where like a man just jumps out of the car as it's like traveling at full speed, and he just goes, "Oh, I'm leaving," and he just disappears out of frame. It's very funny because I guess he's dead now, which is all he had it coming. Yeah, and like there's a lot of like slide whistle sound effects as this is all going on. Like, classic. But yeah, I mean that's about it for my thoughts on The Bank Dick specifically.
Me too. It was actually not bad.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
I think people could take that as a hot recommendation. Yeah. I hate old men because Jared Duncan's old, and I don't want to become him. Yeah. You know when like kids don't want to become their dads.
Are you aware, RJ, that according to Woody Allen, in a 2000 New York Times interview, he said that W.C. Fields is one of 6 genuine comic geniuses. He recognized as such in movie history, along with Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Groucho and Harpo Marx, and Peter Sellers. Goldberg?
What about Whoopi?
No.
Fucking sexist, racist bastard.
Well, yeah. I mean, welcome to the program.
Yeah. I think Whoopi Goldberg could fit in there. She was a comedic genius.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of white men in that list.
Well, you heard it here first. Jared Duncan is a big Woody Allen fan, and I'm on Whoopi's side. So
yeah. Team Whoopi.
Team Whoopi.
Hey, she said it was okay to like for Warner Brothers to put out those old racist cartoons.
She did.
She did.
Right on.
Right on. She's very apologetic about them on the DVDs because they had to get her to do it. Right on. Do you remember the story about like Ted Danson coming out in blackface for like Whoopi Goldberg's birthday like ages ago?
I think I heard about that. Did people think it was funny though, or were people
no one thought that was funny, and that was like before the woke times. That was just a bad idea even back in like whatever it was the 90s.
Fucking Ted Danson. Yeah, he was a dink on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he was playing himself, so I guess it must be true.
Mm-hmm. Are you watching any of that new Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Not the new season, but I will soon.
Okay, I will soon. I gotta watch that new one. It's been okay so far.
Once October's done, I'll get into it.
Okay, so we got 6 short films we can touch upon. I'll run them down here. Number 1, Pool Sharks from 1915. It's his first. It's actually number 1, the earliest film in the Criterion Collection so far. And and it's first film. It's silent. This was like again early. Him just coming off of vaudeville and being like, "Hey, let's do." Basically, we're going to film our shtick without sound, and it's just about a guy and a guy competing for the affections of a lady, and there's some pool hustling going on, people escaping out windows, and really not much to talk about because it's like I don't know, not super interesting.
Yeah. We're talking about Pool Shark, right?
Yeah. Still talking about Pool Shark.
I have one note.
Yeah.
It was K.
Yeah.
K.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very like this is like a very forgettable generic. The only reason it's brought up here because it was the first W.C. Fields film. It's so
sure.
why not throw it on
Whatever.
there? Throw it on there.
Whatever.
Who cares? Number 2, we take a big jump because I guess like he still had a bunch of contracts in theater and stuff like that, so we couldn't go right to do film. So like to like the 24 or something like that. The next movie they have on here, which is his first sound film, The Golf Specialist from 1930. This too features a mustached W.C. Fields, which from what I was reading is because he actually knew that people hated the mustache. So he kept it. Because it definitely is weird. It's like, I don't know if it's like some sort of like Charlie Chaplin, Groucho Marx sort of thing. You're saying, I'll have a mustache too, even though it doesn't really work with my face or character other than you're supposed to have one. I don't know. This went on way too. This is like, I think, okay, actually, one thing I'll say is that most of these are all about 20 minutes long. And I'd say that none of them actually feel terribly long. Except for this one. This one I felt went on way too long. It's like out at like some sort of like resort with a golf course. And there's like a guy who doesn't like his like mall hitting on guys, and every time he sees her talking to dudes, he like roughhouses them. One guy turns inside out into a pretzel, which is like the highlight I think of this. W.C. Fields here plays sort of like a chiseler who's like a con man traveling around, and he goes and tries to impress this broad by showing off his golf prowess, and his like caddy is this like, I don't know, he's supposed to be Scottish because golf is Scottish. He's something, and it's just it's like a one bit thing that goes on way too long of him like trying to like hit a ball, and he's really bad at it, and that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess if you think golf's awesome, then this might be more interesting to you. But yeah, this is again another like just kind of piece of the evolution of W.C. Fields' persona, working things out. Pretty missable stuff. I mean, it's here because it's it's his first sound film. What else can you say? Yep.
Nothing. There's nothing else you can say.
Well, no one letter.
It simply exists.
Yep.
Like I don't know, it's there.
Okay. And then there's The Dentist. This is from 1932. So this one, I just saw some note about it. It's like on the DVD packaging, so it's on the Criterion site, saying this is like the controversial The Dentist. And I was like, what does that mean? Well, okay. So one of the things that W.C. Fields is kind of like has a reputation for is like when he was making this stuff was that him and what's her name? They made the movie It's a Gift. God, I have to look it up. It's pissing me off because I have this to watch and I should have watched it. Damn it!
You should have. What you're doing now is pretty horrible. So I hope you feel bad.
Not recalling the name of. God damn it, Jane.
Well, do you not care about this show
at
all?
No, not Jane Mays. God damn it, I'm blanking out on all of this stuff now.
God, you're bad at this.
I am terrible. I'm a bad man.
You're bad. You're a bad dude.
Oh my god. Oh, Mae West, my little chickadee. So, so Mae West, she was this lady who had big tits back in the 30s, and they do like all sorts of comments, make jokes about it, but like being really subtle. And then there's like the whole like pre-code stuff of trying to beat the Hays Code and being saucy back in the day. And so that was W.C. Fields' thing, is like making stuff that like would buck that. And The Dentist, there's a little bit of that, smacking his daughter on the ass And then there's like the whole like him pulling the tooth out of the woman's mouth and her like wrapping her legs around him, and like pulling her up and down, pulling her face down to his crotch. So it's like he's getting a blowjob, that sort of thing.
Classics.
Yeah, classics. So here in The Dentist, we get kind of like a harsher W.C. Fields kind of persona, where he's just like an asshole. He's just like fucking throwing his golf clubs into the lake and just being like a prick to people, like very openly hostile to people, not in like the subtle muddery sort of way. Just being like, hey, just like, yeah, being a general jerk. And then we get some Jews that show up, and there's a whole thing about being unable to find the mouth in the Jew beard, because 1932.
I just thought that was a joke about huge beards. That was specifically Jewish people.
Oh yeah.
Did they say that? Did I just miss that?
No, it's there. It's like he's Orthodox Jew, and it's like, and that's when he goes, "Ugh!" And he's like, "Oh God, yeah, see, yeah." But but the next the big moment for me though is W.C. Fields telling the story about the doctor down the street who was like really a bad doctor. He was treating a man for jaundice for 8 months, but it turned out he was just a Jap. So
wow,
I burst out laughing because I went, holy shit, because like, oh yeah, 1932, just dropping those. So that was
it's pretty amazing.
That was something, yeah. Again, wouldn't fly these days. Anyway, hey, what did you think of The Dentist?
Hey, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, your video went out on me for a little bit there.
Okay. Hey RJ.
Anyways,
what did you think of The Dentist?
Yo. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I have no notes on this.
This started to at least feel like something worth watching.
The Dentist?
Yeah.
It did. It seemed like it was like a real thing, but then while I was watching it, I don't know. Did you said it went on a little long, right?
No, that was I found the golf specialist went on endlessly. The Dentist, I thought, like, I mean, the Dentist was fine. Like, I was like, again, I was kind of like, I was okay with these like running 20 minutes a piece. I've seen some shorts where I'm like really watching the time and like, okay, hurry up, come on. But with these, I was kind of like, oh, that's okay, that's cool. This is actually a lot easier to watch like 6 short films than it is to watch one long movie. For whatever reason. I don't know.
Right.
High praise, folks.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It was like I never was uncomfortable watching it. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. I would never watch it again. So
yep.
Unless you were super into old ass shit, there's no reason to watch it.
Yeah, watch.
It was I didn't find it as funny as one of the other shorts, and or as funny as The Bank Dick. So
yeah. Next up, The Fatal Glass of Beer from 1933. I thought this was like nothing at all. Like I don't understand what he was going for. It seemed to be like barely even jokes. It was played fairly straight with just a couple of visual gags. It's basically like a short, crappier version of Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush, which is like really cool and amazing. People should just watch that. Fatal Glass of Beer, completely skippable.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
couldn't. I'll just say I couldn't even believe that this thing ended when it did. It just stops, and I'm like, whoa, that's like it. And then that was it.
Yeah. So I actually thought this one was kind of funny.
Okay.
But it has no plot. It has no point. It's really long, and the story sucks.
Yeah.
But there were 3 things in it that I thought were really funny.
Okay.
There's a dog sled, and then the camera's panning, and you see all the dogs on the sled, and then there's a wiener dog there whose legs can't touch the ground. He's just kind of hovering. I thought that was funny.
Okay.
He has a entire huge French baguette of bread that he eats, that he dips in soup, and I thought that was funny. And then he's dipping this huge bread in like soup and sauce all over, but he never eats it. He has a little piece of bread in his other hand that he bites off of. He dips the big piece, but then he bites the little piece. And I thought that was funny. So
Yep.
there's that. And that was pretty good. So I thought that stuff was kind of funny.
Okay. Next up.
But no, yeah. The story sucks.
Yeah.
And you would never watch it.
No.
So whatever.
So then next, The Pharmacist from 1933. This one is like definitely the most complex, I guess, of like these stories.
Okay.
It's about just like a guy who's a pharmacist living in a town. This is like an era though, like that we don't exist in anymore, where like a pharmacist in your community actually sold you everything, magazines and candy and like your food. I think this was like a part of day-to-day life until supermarkets showed up in the 70s and 80s in like North America and even like in England, because they still have kind of like that sort of pharmacist corner shop sort of thing. Like we just don't have this anymore. Like our pharmacists are like, you go to the pharmacist after you get a prescription because you're sick. They don't sell you anything else. They don't have shit. Not in this way anyway. And he's also selling I don't know, alcohol during Prohibition era, which you're not supposed to be doing. One of my notes here about this is topless hats are upsetting to me. And there was also one in the Bank Dick where it's like the guys are wearing these like hats.
Yeah.
And there's like no top to it. And it's just like you see hair coming out of their hat. And I'm just like, ugh. Like, I hate this. Like, I don't want this in my life.
Is that supposed to be a thing, or is that just like a joke? I thought that was just a joke. That's not real stuff, is it?
I think it is real, RJ. It doesn't. It's like visors. It was like pre-visors, I guess, so people would get sun on their hair still. But they didn't figure out that you didn't have to have a brim running all the way around. This is before. This is before ball caps. I'd assume.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. Unless you're a train conductor. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I don't really remember too much of the pharmacist. Does he get robbed in this or something?
Something. All I remember in The Pharmacist was there is a scene where there's a little girl and it looks like she eats a bird or something. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, did that girl eat that bird? And that's all I watched this like not even 24 hours ago, and I don't even remember it.
I'm in the same boat. And then finally,
is that it?
No, one more. The Barbershop. And this is also
that's the one he gets robbed in.
Yes, or someone is stealing money, and there's like
it's something.
Someone steals money from down the street. So the Barbershop also. Yeah. So these last three are all from 1933. This is like kind of the same thing as The Pharmacist. We get now, but at this point, the W.C. Fields character is like fully realized. Like this is like exactly the same sort of comedy bits and character beats as we saw in the Bank Dick. It just is like watching the Barbershop after you've seen the Bank Dick, the feature film version of this idea. It's kind of like, oh, it's all the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you just get gags. I mean, so there's like this one's got like it's more complicated stuff. Like you get him shaving the man, which is like with these horrific shaving sounds. We get the gigantic fat man who goes into the the sweat booth, and he's left there, and he gets shrunk down to a skinnier man who's now going to sue him because apparently becoming fit and muscular is a suable offense.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just like it's a lot of comedy of error type of stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is not top of the line comedy, and I don't know. I guess it's interesting in the historical sense of looking at the evolution of a comedy act. But man, as a like DVD, you do not need this at all in your collection. I mean, this is like to the people who are collecting these, which is like nobody, but like this is like totally skippable. Like this should be a special feature on Bank Dick and not its own release. Yeah,
that sucks that it's its own release. I would be pissed off if I got this in the fucking mail.
Yeah, through your subscription service.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, time
No,
to watch these YouTube
yeah.
clips.
The short films as a whole, yeah, they're cool. They're kind of
Yeah.
neat to watch. I guess I'm glad I watched them, but I probably won't ever watch any of them again. So
No, not at all.
whatever.
Not at all.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. I'd say like I would even like not even assign these ratings because they're just sort of like, you know, they're like, oh yeah,
They're just there.
That's a historical document. I give it 3 out of 5 stars as a historical document for existing, but like nothing like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know, nothing super.
I hear you, dog.
No gems, no like wow, that really changed my mind
Hmm.
about something or made me laugh even. Like that's kind of the weird awkward thing. They're all films, but yeah. Hey RJ, any other thoughts about W.C. Fields before we talk about people who hated the bank dick?
No, not really. I could see people hating it, but I feel like
Yeah.
they'd just be picking on it. Like it's not bad.
Yeah, it's
It's
gonna
not
be.
bad.
I mean, again, it's gonna come down to like people who are kind of having problems with the comedy, not finding funny or whatever. So,
Yeah.
who hates the bank dick? Jamie Roberts does. And Jamie just watched this October 2nd, so this is fresh. 1.5 star.
Ooh.
W.C. Fields' charms as a performer vastly surpass his skills as a screenwriter, and even his meager skill there is poorly served by the dreadful direction. There's no shot composition, there's no pacing, visual gags are punctuated by slide whistlers, and the acting is flat except for Fields himself. It's as anti-cinematic as any early sound film, but it's from 1940. There's no excuse for that. I don't know.
Really?
It's so
There's
weird.
no excuse, eh?
No. It's like
I wonder
most,
what this
like,
person makes
most,
for
like,
movies.
A lot of comedy just has no style. We've actually talked about this, about like the stylelessness of comedy. Usually, there's no real look. A lot of comedies have. Anyway, Wildcat Phoenix, 1.5 star. Comedic taste seems to change from generation to generation. I'd heard much about the genius of W.C. Fields, a comedian whose vaudevillian talents are often spoken of in the same breath as those of the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention was one of a Three Stooges was in the Bank Dick. Shimp, the fourth member of the Three Stooges, he was the bartender. That odd-looking man.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The Bank Dick is supposedly the quintessential Fields film, and if so, I'm sad to say it didn't encourage me to examine much else of his work. There is essentially no plot to the film at all, just a sequence of loosely connected slapstick routines. During one such random aside, Fields' drunken lout of a main character is asked to direct a film when the previous director is incapacitated. After a few awkward scenes, our protagonist simply walks away, and the incident is more or less ignored throughout the rest of the film. Sure, there are some funny lines and a few inspired stunts. I greatly enjoyed the car driving over the miners with the pickaxes, followed by the less fortunate motorcycle cop, but nothing that would inspire me to consider this a quote-unquote classic.
He's got some points, but
I wouldn't like.
I don't know. I mean, like,
I'm not going. I wouldn't be going out of my way to recommend people watch this either. Like honestly, like if you're interested in it, then you're interested in it. You're going to watch it no matter what. But it's a weird, tough sell. Comedy always is. I mean, unless you like happen to stumble into it and like, you're like totally plugged into like the wavelength that it's on. You know what I'm saying, dog?
Yeah.
You see, I'm trying to talk. Cool?
I kind of do, but
no.
I don't like that you talk like that because it bothers me.
Hey,
it bothers me deeply.
Here's a great 1-star review from AK, Akira Kurosawa, I guess. Kubrick listed this as number 8 on his top 10. I have no idea why. It simply doesn't hold up. And it's true. Do you know what one of his...
What? Well...
Do you know?
Yeah, but that's the kind of the wrong way to look at it. Where he's like, this old man that I know thought this movie was great. I don't really know why it doesn't hold up as good as maybe when you saw it like 80 years ago. Well, it's like, well, yeah, that's probably why that old man likes it.
I do believe. Right. What are the other one of the other Stanley Kubrick favorite movies is The Jerk with Steve Martin.
Yeah, that's a good show.
It's okay. Mighty Sparks, who says, God, I hate W.C. Fields. That's a good one, too. Classic.
That's the equivalent of, seriously, fuck this movie.
Yeah, there's none of those. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't have a star.
Well, next week we'll probably get some.
There's like, I Still Don't Get It, 2 stars. Apparently
No.
a bank dick is what we call a movie about a security guard nowadays. What? Hey, it's better than Observe and Report.
Nowadays.
That's saying something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, folks, bank dick means the bank detective, because that's actually what they called it in the UK. Yep. So, yeah. Anyways, well, RJ.
People are witty.
Yeah, they're very witty, as Letterboxd shows us every week. Hey, so I'm glad you liked this movie. That you'd watch it 20 years from now when you're an old man.
Yep, I would.
I'm kind of like, I think about like I'd think about a day like 20 years from now when I'm like telling you young whippersnappers, hey, you guys should watch that Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's pretty great. And then I'm told, nuh-uh, grandpa, by the next generation of like podcasters who like do podcasts on old podcasts.
When we're not podcasting onto vinyls like they will be in like 20 years.
That's right. Or directly into your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hypnotoad.
Got any comedy recommendations for the people out there? Since we're on the topic of comedy, anything that you're like, hey folks, you guys gotta watch it. Yeah. Any show.
Showtime. All
right, that's the one you
with
get.
Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro.
My recommendation is the TV show Delocated. 3 seasons of that, and it is amazing.
I think people should watch Showtime because that's better than whatever you recommended. Watch King of the Hill. That's a good show.
Yeah, King of the Hill is pretty great too. And it's so memorific. There's so many memes.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot of memes. Some dank ones even.
Dank. Okay, well, after the break, RJ is going to reenact the death of W.C. Fields starting tonight by drinking himself to death so he can spend the last 2 years of his life in a sanatorium. Miserable.
Did he do that?
Yeah. And he, like something burst inside of him and he died.
Nice. That's a good way to go.
There you go.